All right, everybody, welcome back to another episode of the Orange Crush podcast. My name is Grayson, man. Flying solo today. David Hood is elsewhere. He's doing big things, guys. He's like the bat signal goes up in the sky, and he's got to go off somewhere, do with his thing, take care of the thing, keep TigerNet afloat. And I'm just here riding solo with my guy, friend of the program, and big time ACC Network legend. Let's use the word legend today, Eric. Feeling like it. We're hyped up. We're ready to go. But Eric, welcome to the show, man. It's always good to have you on. Good recurring guest. I think our top recurring guest. So I'm bestowing that honor to you, my friend.
I need a jacket or a coffee mug, T-shirt, something, to recognize that, because it's an honor to always be here. But I do want to point out kind of a weird coincidence. David Hood never around when I'm here.
Dude,
so
he's dodging you.
We're just two, big guys that can't be on the show at the same time. Like the screen's not big enough or what? But always good to see you, man. Always good to talk about my Tigers.
Absolutely, man. And that's all we're here for. We're talking about really just a general discussion on Clemson. To start, really, I know it's been a couple weeks since the spring game has passed, but that's like the only football that people can really digest. And I'd love to sort of get your perspective from the ACC Network side because of this production that is going down with the network. You and I had a conversation prior about it, but love to sort of dive in on your perspective of all this, what you took away from the spring game, and just basically what you've been hearing from that camp.
Yeah, well, I tell you, it was really weird at first, with it not being on TV, but, Clemson's decision and other schools, I guess, decision not to, have their TV or their games on TV. But it was great for me because I just got to go to Tiger Town and be a fan, to be a husband and a dad and just, really soak all that in, because, when my wife and daughter and the rest of our family, when they go to games, this fall, I'm never there. So it was really cool for me to just kind of sit back, have zero responsibility, have fun, cheer, have a great time, be with her, take awesome pictures. So I loved it, from that aspect. And then, just seriously being able to sit back and watch it as a fan, not really even have a analyst hat on where I'm like breaking down and thinking, just watching for enjoyment. And really liked what I saw from the guys. I know it had a lot of guys out, and I went to a practice like, earlier in the week or maybe a week before. I can't remember at this point, but it looked like the Skittles out there, man. There was a bunch of different colored jerseys. Looked like the rainbow out there with so many different guys. And it sounds like it was all, just kind of cleaning stuff up or smaller injuries, or just not wanting to get people hurt, which I totally respect and understand that. So love what we saw from it, and think that the what Clemson can do this summer and how they can continue to galvanize and make their team, the strongest they can be is going to be really fun to watch.
You mentioned you were at practice, and this is sort of a theme that I've picked up when I'm talking to recruits or just general people from last year. You that first few days of practice, you sort of were asking people around, and the opinion was like, does this kind of feel like they're just happy to be here? And you flip that switch this spring of just intensity. Tom Allen's addition has certainly been a boost for this group, where he's dolphin diving into piles and just bringing that Venables-esque energy. A lot of people have used that comparison. Would you say that's an accurate assessment of what you were able to see and what you were able to share?
Yeah, I think from, an intensity standpoint, never want to disrespect or discount, and not saying that we're disrespecting anybody, but I think it's always, you're practicing with a purpose, right? Like there's a certain way that we really do things, and that we did things and that we will continue to do. But there certainly was a noticeable difference, I think, in regards to maybe how it was done, or the fact that Tom Allen has a mic too, right? You hear multiple people over the overhead system here, and just the way that he was getting after it, certainly more verbal than in the past, but love what I saw from that aspect, and the tenacity and things, and the competitive drills, and having a guy like Ben Boulware out there running around, like a pit bull, certainly helps. So it's just different, right? It's something that just was not there from that aspect or that position, coaching wise. That I think people can be really excited about and kind of see that how they're doing things.
I mean, the first practice that I got to see, within 5 minutes, you have Boulware yelling expletives in his position group
with his bulletproof vest on and jumping around with his tight pants and all that. He's doing it. He can make it happen.
He's in the trenches for sure. And that kind of young energy has certainly resonated with that group, where I think it was Sammy Brown that talked to me it was either this spring or another point where he said their group chat for the linebackers was Meathead University. So he
Awesome.
was laying the seeds early before it really
Yeah.
this role got elevated for him. So it's been really fun to just watch that kind of, and certainly with you playing with him, that was that interaction just to see where
Yeah.
you always think, oh, this guy's going to be a coach one day, or if he is, you're like, man, those players are in for it.
Yeah, I think was such a cerebral guy, right? Like he's super, super smart, and I think that it's easy to see how that could transfer over to coaching really quickly. And for me, when he decided last year to be a part of the team in whatever capacity that was officially, I was just so excited for him. I remember talking to him when he made that decision and just kind of wondered why. What was he thinking and why now and all these different things. And he just felt like it was time and was excited about the opportunity and the fact that it's blossomed into being the linebackers coach at his school is just amazing. I think we're lucky to have him, to be honest, because when you look at the best to ever do it, he's up there. And he won't ask you anything that he already has done, that he hasn't done. He can't tell you to do something. He can't tell you to put in more work. He can't tell you to watch more film more than what he's already done, right? So it's one of those things where it's not just some random guy telling me to do something. No, he's lived it, and he's walked those halls, and he's sweat where you have, and he's cried and bled and worked hard, all these different things. But I think that brings a different level to it, and not just in the film room, not just on the field, but recruiting too. I mean, who can sell Clemson better than Ben Boulware? Nobody. When you look at that, guys that have been there, done that at the highest level, got to the mountaintop and won, a national championship, been a team captain, been an All-American, all these different things. It's different. And clearly Coach Dabo Swinney has known that forever. I mean, he has the most, players on his staff, former players on his staff, I would say, than anybody for sure. But just honing in on that and having guys from all different eras too, right? Like he's got guys from the 70s, the 80s, the 90s, early 2000s, 10s and 20s as well, which it's a lot of perspective. And it's not just how he's done stuff, it's how Clemson does stuff. And those players know that, those former players that are now coaches are on the staff. And I think they can just really help, keep the level where it should be. And, when you have those people in that position, it makes a big difference.
It's like when they bring out, I think it was last year, they did the all 75 team for the NBA where you're just bringing out all these different guys from different eras. And so they've got that there on the coaching staff. You mentioned something, though, that's fascinating is the different types of perspective. Not only are they bringing on these different players who have been playing different eras, they've brought on some head coaches, former head coaches, Galloway, Mike Houston, and as Sweeney joked, you can get them for free essentially because their contracts are still being paid off. The head coaching experience on this staff, it feels like in years past, and this isn't a shot at anybody per se, but you get this sort of experience, you get it from different levels, you get it from across the country. It feels like this staff as a collective whole is as strong as it's been in some time, especially when you consider bringing in Tom Allen, former head coach at Indiana, just got to the college football playoff semifinal with Penn State. How do you feel about this collection of these people, along with guys like Garrett Riley, Matt Luke?
Right.
It just feels like there's a collective brain power for Clemson there to help Sweeney at the top. Just feels like there's a really good ecosystem being built in the spring that's sort of started with Garrett Riley as that marquee hire, and you just incrementally got better as a staff. And I always feel like that's so important when you have a 16, 17, 18 game kind of season.
Yeah, no, I don't think there's any question. And Matt Luke being a former head coach as well, for Ole Miss. So a lot of resources that you are able to pull from. And I think that there's certainly something to that, not only on the game day where if something happens and he can lean on others or they can have a quick timeout or whatever, halftime adjustments, things of that nature, but just preparing, throughout the season and before the season, after the season, how did you guys do stuff here? How can we best fit this? I think the most interesting thing about that is obviously, Nick Saban kind of started that years ago, right? And he has all these analysts and all. You get fired, you're going to Alabama, right? That's kind of the school of hard knocks down there. They'll get you back on your feet. And, I think that it's such a good resource to have. And it's really fun to see, these guys there. Who knows? Is it for a year? Is it for multiple years? Are they happy? Like, here's the deal, man. Being at Clemson is very different than being anywhere else from a structure standpoint, from a resource standpoint. from a quality of life. Like it's very, very different. And so that's why I think you might see some of these guys stick around a little bit more, than they would maybe at other places doing this same type of thing. But it's certainly a blessing to have. I know that they're very thankful for that.
In terms of the notes from the spring, one of the players that I've watched from felt like day 2, especially with the injuries to the offensive line, Braden Jacobs was one that not only in stature and frame stands out, but
You miss them,
got
right?
got a couple of texts on the spring game that day on Saturday, and just oh my gosh,
Yeah.
Braden Jacobs is like just a dude. Just from looking at him, the kid's 18 years old, just got on the campus, and he looks like an NFL All-Pro tackle. And so you go get to see him play against Will Helt, the TJ Parkers, get some actual quality reps and do pretty well for himself given the circumstances. Is there any other player besides that you're getting texts going, Eric, this is a guy, once the jerseys, what's the orange and white is put on, this is someone that's going to be tough to keep off the field, or someone that may be a valuable depth piece down the road?
Yeah.
Who strikes you as one of those guys?
Yeah, I think it's pretty obvious, probably for the first thing when he first started, just because he is a taller guy with Tristan Smith, and he exploded right in the game. I mean, had a massive day, 135 yards, a 75-yard touchdown or 70-yard touchdown. Just really fun to kind of see that. And, just quality depth. I mean, this position group, which I'm sure we'll talk about more in a little bit, is just so deep. And when you have a guy like that coming off the bench, that is an instant mismatch issue, red zone threat, all these different things, but showed breakaway speed as well. That's a big deal. And that's really impressive to have somebody of that nature. Amir Adams is a guy that, I was hearing about day one. I mean, just showing up, not even working out or playing yet. This just was a guy that looked the part, heard raving reviews about him all spring, what he's going to bring to the table, how he's going to do. I don't think we'll start by any stretch of the imagination because Clemson is going to be very deep, but will be a rotational piece. I mean, maybe it's on the second team by, start of the season or midway through. I don't know if they'll be able to keep him off the field. The other guy that, again, just when you see these guys and you're just like, yeah, that's different right away, Gideon Davidson there just at the running back position. First of all, wearing number 9 is just the fact that he looks similar to Travis. You put that jersey on, you see the big, powerful legs, the running style. I don't know if he's quite as dynamic in regards to the home run ability yet that Travis had, but certainly a better pass catcher than Travis was at this same point in his career. A guy that was very involved in the passing game in the spring game. That I love that, especially when you have a guy like Cade Klubnik in the fall, who is arguably the best quarterback in the country. Give him a weapon that can free release and get out in space. That's going to be really fun, to see how they carve that up and just to see how much playing time does he earn, as really, to me, it feels like Clemson's going to be a little bit running back by committee this year, which is fine. It's totally cool. If you have 3-4 guys that can rotate in, not only are you probably healthier throughout the season, but you also can lean on whoever's the bell cow that day, and I've seen a plethora of schools. You think of Miami a couple of years ago, you look at North Carolina, Louisville, teams that would rather, have 3 running backs that can go instead of just one bell cow, kind of like Clemson was in the position last year, whether by choice or necessity with Phil Maffa.
Yeah, and we saw the sort of result of that is they sort of had to run him into the ground, even with the injury that he had suffered early in the season.
I don't know if that was by choice, right? Because when we saw Jay Haynes get some play, we're like, maybe more of that.
There's context to that situation specifically. So they have gotten better at that position theoretically in that time frame. But what's fascinating to me, and you'd mentioned, and I'd love to dive into this deeper, you had made some comments about Clemson's wide receiver room, and it's really fascinating to see the turn that they've made, because you had in, I think, 22, 21, even to 2023 to some extent, you just felt like you weren't getting enough out of that room. The production wasn't necessarily there. You weren't having the home run hitters of when you get Mike Williams, T. Higgins, and all these guys in back-to-back kind of years, you sort of get accustomed to a certain level of playmaking in that position. So I feel like a dip was always natural, just sort of with the ebbs and flows of the sport. But it feels like Clemson's returned to that spot, and you have some real serious dudes with Bryant Wesco, TJ Moore, Antonio Williams, Tyler Brown is making his return. And then you add a guy like Tristan Smith into the fold and potentially another option too with Cole Turner as that second team. Talking to some of the receivers, they've called it the 3 waves of terror, which I don't know if 3 is going to be the case. That'd be pretty remarkable on Clemson's front, but at least two waves. But I think in this sport or this part of college football where depth is such as a necessity. And I felt like the teams like Notre Dame and Ohio State, not only they were the healthiest, but they had depth at a lot of different positions that mattered. And I think for receiver, you have a situation where potentially a Bryant Wesco gets down with an ankle sprain. You throw Tristan Smith in there, you throw Tyler Brown, you throw XYZ. It feels like Clemson not only has options, but they're very, very talented.
Yeah, let me go ahead and knock on wood that does not happen, what you said. I'm not even going to repeat it. But I'm 100% with you when you look at the depth and you look at the star power that they have. And it's weird, like which one's more impressive, that they have a multitude of dudes that can roll or that they have legit 3 number ones that could go anywhere in the country and start, maybe outside of Ohio State. Bama, I think it's debatable when you look at these guys with, TJ Moore, who was just freaky last year, probably more physically ready than Bryant Wesco, just body-wise, but probably needs to continue to learn and really dive in and ownership of the offense and the playbook. Bryant just, it's funny after the Georgia game, I'm just sitting here begging and pleading, put the young guys, like let them go. They've got to go to work. They have to be the guy. He gets in first play from scrimmage, a 75-yard bomb. And I'm just like, well, that would have been nice a week ago, but here we are. I guess we'll be okay moving forward. And then Antonio Williams, he's just in his final form, right? Like he is what you think a senior should look like. That's at an elite program, that's put in the work, that's been an All-American, that was a monster last year. It's what it looks like, and he's doing that. He's a pro playing college right now, and it's really fun to be able to have that. But those 3 guys are electric. Then you've got Tyler Brown coming back, who 2 years ago was Clemson's best receiver, was an All-American himself. And that guy is either going to be the 4th guy on the field or the first one off the bench, from the wide receiver standpoint. So it's exciting. I think that Clemson, top to bottom, again, I totally want to give respect and praise to Ohio State and the run that they are on and the guys that they have in the league, LSU too. But this is the best core in college football when it comes to a position group. These receivers are good, deep, and experienced, and they're going to have a chance to put on a show too because they have a great quarterback, right? That's such a interesting piece that sometimes it doesn't sync up when you have these generational players. You don't have a generational quarterback with them or a very good quarterback with them. Clemson has that, and can they take advantage of it? What does the offense look like, especially knowing that maybe it is running back by committee? Are they throwing it 35, 40 times a game? I'm cool with that. Let it eat. Let those guys do their thing. And it's going to be really interesting to see what does that offense look like, especially knowing game 1 probably going to be a night game in the Valley against a really quality opponent in LSU.
Imagine if that would be Lee Corso's final game day call, which is probably going to be Ohio State or Florida State, but you never know.
I imagine they're going to be at the Horseshoe. I'll go ahead and put my vote on that. First place they ever went, last place he ever goes. I imagine that writes itself.
Seems pretty fitting, but a night game certainly wouldn't hurt. They can still get the top crew over there for a game in Death Valley. That's going to be just really fun.
Jet ride, not very far.
They got the resources. They can make it work. They can make that work. But just a couple more from me. We know we got to get you rocking early. Guy, Eric's a busy guy. He's killing it with UFL. He's doing
I'm headed to the Dirty D this week, man. Tomorrow I'm going to Dallas. Can't wait. It's going to be a lot of fun.
The Dirty D. I've never heard Dallas been called that before. That's fascinating. That's fascinating. Oh, that doesn't take context. But anyways, with Cade Klubnik, it just feels like last April, uncertainty was the word with him. There was a lot of conversation about Trent Pierman being potentially the best quarterback on the roster, which just comes to show you just the overreactions that we can get from the spring game. It's especially in that format at the time, but what a difference a year makes for him. I just, with the bevy of talent that you've mentioned, just what are your expectations for Klubnik in his last hurrah as Clemson's quarterback, and what kind of legacy could he potentially be tapping into? Hasn't been a quarterback in a while that's played all 4 years here. Clemson started 3, sort of reminds you of some of the better quarterbacks. Just what potentially could he tap into in terms of that? Remember how people remember too when this all said and done is potentially he's heading into the NFL next year.
Yeah, it's a lot. There's a lot, right? There's a lot that is going to be put kind of on his shoulders, and as you mentioned, it is the night and day difference from a year ago. And I remember kind of sitting here at this time last year and being like, I don't know what it's going to look like. I don't know the strides that this team can make, that Cade can make. Just strictly based on what we saw and the things that would confuse him, the things that defenses could take advantage of when he's doing different decisions and things of that nature. And that was all gone this past year. I mean, that guy was an absolute weapon and student of the game. And it's funny, when things kind of, after the season kind of come to light with Barrett Carter and some things that he shared on our podcast too, that really stood out for me. The first thing, what was during, film sessions that, Barrett's a guy, he wants to be the first one out or first one in, last one out. And Cade's truck was always there. It's like he just couldn't beat Cade. Cade was in the building doing his thing, watching tape, getting after it. And then another one where I can't remember if it was a practice or a workout, but Cade kind of calls Barrett out. And it's just like, hey, like, let's go. Like, what are you doing? Like, get going, get this team going. You're supposed to be a leader. You're supposed to be doing this and that. And Barrett said that was like a massive momentum shift because that guy's put in the work in Cade Klubnik and he's there, but also now he's turning into that leader that the quarterback has to be, that it's just given the nature of the position and, for the momentum that they were able to grab, all season long it was just impressive, to really see. But, from him, I think the biggest difference, a lot of people have asked kind of, where did he grow the most, last year? To me, it was the pocket presence. I mean, that guy would get happy feet, loud feet, get out of the pocket, kind of panic a little bit, and then maybe bad things would happen. This year, calm, cool, collective, one step here, step up in the pocket. The Pittsburgh game is a perfect example of that. He threw a great touchdown, I believe, to Antonio Williams, where there's pressure coming. It's a free blitz, and he knows it. He's like, this is my guy, and he's staring it down, and all he does is subtly move to the side, and boom, right behind the guy's head, delivers a touchdown. And, I think that's just something where you can't just coach that. The player has to put in the effort to be able to identify that. And Cade Klubnik more than has done that, where, again, I think he's the best quarterback in the country. I think that he has a chance to submit himself as one of the best ever. And the expectation is obviously championships. Like, Clemson hadn't had that in a while, and probably from a super national standpoint, probably don't quite have that yet. But I think after seeing what they've been able to do, knowing what those great teams look like, I don't think there's any question that they're one of the 3-4 teams that are in the real hunt for a national championship.
Yeah, I think that there was one game in his first year as the full starter against Florida State, and I could see the vision for it. Where you talk about standing in the pocket, delivering those throws, and you're just like, okay, there's something there. We just have to see how it all plays out. But final question for me, Eric, and we'll get you out of here as quickly as we can. A lot of chatter in the college football world the last couple of weeks. A lot of movement, specifically
is there anything happening? Really?
It's around. It's happened. Certain quarterbacks are being asked for their money back. It's like who knows? Like, there's just certain schools that want to buy out from a certain brother of a quarterback. I don't stuff's happening. But it always feels like in worlds like this, you have sort of the events that are going on. How does it reflect back to something that you closely personally see? And for Clemson, especially with this portal window, this is just pending. This is Thursday, April 24th. As we're recording this, things can happen. Moves are made.
I'm glad you specified, just in case.
Right, just in case. It's also 2:24 p.m. for anyone interested. There is just one exit from the transfer portal, and you had a bunch of retention come back, and it just feels like Dabo's always drawn the ire of the fan base for his style and just sort of how he goes about doing things, and he's always done it his way, which is commendable. Dips his toes into the transfer portal, picks up a couple of solid leads, and a lot of fans are excited about what that brings. But even still, like, it's just, this is Clemson's way. And so I'd love to just sort of pick your brain and I've always been sort of in the back of my mind thinking, when is this going to kind of return back to an equilibrium maybe, where there's so much chaos, so much uncertainty? What programs maybe stand out that have that reassurance that, yeah, I can come here for a year or two and develop?
Right.
And Klubnik's a great example of this. Didn't really pop until his junior year.
Yeah.
And Tristan Smith, that guy from the FCS, can come here and play out his final year. Do you see Clemson's, and I hate to use the word style because I know there'll probably be pushback on that, but do you feel like Clemson maybe in a few years, as this continues to, I feel like this is sort of the breaking point with Tennessee and that situation. Do you see maybe Clemson style being one where, like, even certain college players like, yeah, I can still get some decent dollars here, but I also have the reassurance there?
Well, here's what I think can be very matter of fact and very real is that Clemson internally and from the college football world, others looking around and seeing is always the standard. People will always, no matter what way this thing goes, will wonder, how is Clemson doing that? How are they doing that? They want to know how we're able to retain the guys. They want to know how we're able to not have to just go and get 50 new players every year. They want to know how our staff stays together so long, why our players are so happy, all these different things, and how, quite frankly, do we win the way that Clemson does? How do they produce the talent that they have? So Clemson will always, and has been for quite some time now, a decade, 2 decades, has been that. And so to me, we'll say 1 decade. I'm getting a little excited for myself. When you see what they're able to do there and how they're able to do it, it all mostly comes back to Dabo Swinney and his vision and his understanding and his trusting in the Clemson culture that he and others before him have built, that this thing's made to last. And that's what I think it was magnified tenfold when the pressure of the outside world is pressing in on that Clemson bubble saying, you have to change, you have to do this and that. And they only came together stronger, said, we're going to do it our way, how we've always done it, how we handle this thing, and we'll show you at the end of it. And I think we're right on the peak of that, or right on the upper mountain climb of that. And who knows, maybe come January, that is the peak, and that is solidified when Clemson, is back standing on top of that mountain. But I think to even, take it a step further with just how different Clemson is, man, Clemson fans, I don't know how you could really grasp it, because we're so locked into us, right? And we're so locked into what we do, and you look around and you see other things. But I just want to reiterate, because I go a lot of places, right? And I get to see a lot of different programs inside and out, talk to a whole bunch of people, that are real and that are going to pull back the curtain to let me see things. We are very lucky to have what we do at Clemson. At the very, very top with our board of trustee, our president, Jim Clements, our athletic director, Graham Neff, and our football coach, Dabo Swinney. That linear nature that we have, that respect and love and care that they have, all right there, very uncommon, and maybe one of few in the entire country that can sit there and say that. And so that's why we are so different. That's how Clemson is able to operate so differently. And I think what will continue to keep them from the rest. And, you see that picture that I'm sure it used to float around a lot more, where you have the 2 paths and you have all these people going this way. Then you have a guy with a tiger paw going to the right. And that's who Clemson is. That's who Clemson will always be. And man, I couldn't be more proud being an alumni than I am right now.
And there you have it, Eric. Good stuff. That's a good 28-ish minutes here from the Orange Crush podcast. My name is Grayson Mann. Eric with some pretty defining stuff to wrap us up. And if you stay to the end, you're a real one. I really appreciate it. Guys, subscribe for more content. Be on the lookout for more podcast guests and everything to go. Make sure you subscribe to Eric's podcast, Eric Mac Lain. Make sure to go show them some love as well and tell them that TigerNet sent you. But guys, thank you as always for tuning in. Subscribe for more. God bless y'all. Take care.